Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? This is definitely a frustrating loss by the Sixers. They fall in Miami in overtime. They lose by one, but there were plenty of opportunities for this team to come out with the victory. Down the stretch, when things got close and when it became crunch time, they failed. They absolutely failed. And here's the thing. When it comes to effort level and getting up and being ready to compete, I told you, when they play good opponents, they are willing to battle. They are willing to make it a fight. They didn't show up in Orlando. There were players that failed in this game because they weren't able to execute, but it was pretty much, as a big picture, it was two playoff teams going at it head-to-head, back-and-forth action, and that's what it was. It wasn't as if the Sixers played this horrendous game because they didn't feel like working hard and they were just trash all night long. No, it was a battle between two squads, and a couple costly mistakes late ended up being the difference. Tobias Harris missing a key dunk to pretty much secure the victory with what? How much time left was on the clock? 18 seconds? 18 seconds left on the clock? That's unacceptable. That actually can happen. Tobias Harris, to me, was the biggest issue. The game was over if he was able to put the ball in the basket with a dunk. The game was over. That was it. That would have finished the game. And he did not do it. He was flat out bad in this one. But after that, the Sixers still had the chance to win. Joel Embiid ends up getting the ball after there was a rebound involved. It gets tapped out to Embiid. There's three guys on him, and he knows a foul is coming. Poke! A poke! The ball gets poked right out of his hands, and then Tyler Herro ends up knocking down a three to take a 1-point lead. The Sixers were up 2 at that time. That's awful. That cannot happen. It can't happen. And here's the thing. Everyone wants to run to Brett Brown. And I thought Brett Brown had some questionable decisions at times, and I will get to that. But for those two circumstances, they go on the players. It goes on the players. Tobias Harris missing a dunk is Tobias Harris's fault. That would have won the basketball game. Joel Embiid turning the ball over. That's on Joel Embiid turning the ball over. Now, Joel Embiid was fantastic all around, so it's hard for me to scream at him and say he's the biggest problem in the world on this one. The only reason why the Sixers were even involved in this game is because of his 35 and 11. He was absolutely electric. He hit the Jimmy Butler shot late in the fourth quarter, that step back three right in the same area where Jimmy Butler cashes in all the time. He also had another big time three. So without Joel Embiid, they would have never even been in that position to win. But I'm really upset with Tobias in this one. He was not capable of executing. He's been our best player for 3 straight weeks. So, don't give me the max contract conversation after a bad game when he has been very consistent for 3 weeks. But it is frustrating that he wasn't able to deliver in this one. There's plenty more to talk about, but before we do, we need to hear a word from my sponsor, SeatGeek. Do you want free money? I can give you free money. If you use the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page, you get $20 off of your total purchase. That's free parking, that's free beer, free food at the arena. It's a no-brainer. Use the promo code BROADS today. Now, there was another moment for Tobias Harris in this one, and this is where I will look at Brett Brown. End of the game, overtime, Sixers down 1. Tobias Harris got the ball in the corner for a clean look. See, here's the thing. I understand both sides. I think both sides are actually right in this case. Tobias Harris had an open look, a clean, fresh opportunity to knock down a 3 to win the game. He was shooting 4 of 14 at that point and was really bad. To me, Tobias Harris is not the guy to go to. to me, you don't go to Tobias Harris in that situation. It's not his night. I've claimed that I wanted Tobias Harris to be the closer, but circumstances and the situation has to play a factor. It is not Tobias Harris's night, so I don't want him shooting the ball. Why not Josh Richardson? You tried Joel Embiid earlier out of an inbound play, and it ended up, to be honest with you, I thought it wasn't even a bad play, but Joel Embiid couldn't pick up the ball in time, and there were some players on him within the paint, but if he grabbed the ball at the right moment, he was able to go up with it. But they tried Joel Embiid earlier in that game, and when I say earlier in that game, it's really the end of the fourth quarter I'm speaking about. They tried that. They also tried Tobias Harris on another play that was out of a timeout in the fourth quarter, and that's another situation where I look at Brett Brown and say, why are we going to Tobias Harris? It's just flat out not his night. So that was one where I was upset with, and then even at the end of the game in overtime to win it, why go to Tobias Harris? Why not Josh Richardson? Why not somebody else? Find a way to get Joel Embiid the ball. You got to do something, but the other side is, what is the coach's job? Get the team a good look. At the end of the day, whether it's a guy who's cold or not, Brett Brown got the team a wide open look. From there, he can't make the jump shot. From there, he's not the one delivering the ball into the basket. Tobias Harris failed to make the shot. So he did his job. As a coach, your job is to get a good look. He got a great look. But I still lean towards the other side where I say, you got to put it in someone else's hands, because in this ball game, through, 53 minutes at that point, you realized maybe, just maybe, Tobias isn't going in this one. So there is plenty of blame to go around. You can look at Ben Simmons and say his offensive woes. It was a problem. The Miami Heat went with the zone look, and I thought there were some decent moments in there, and I thought there were some bad moments for the Sixers in there as well when it came to the zone. Brett Brown did do a good job by going to Trey Burke, and Trey Burke was able to break some things down. He was able to penetrate. He was able to create stuff off the dribble. So, I thought that was a nice way to counter the zone at times, and Trey Burke was good off the bench. James Ennis responded with a good game off the bench as well. Furkan struggled, and defensively he was a problem. Mike Scott only knocked down a three-pointer, and he continues to be bad, flat out bad. But when you look at someone like Al Horford in this one, what's going on here? What's going on here? See, I've seen enough out of Al Horford throughout his career to know that this isn't him. When Tobias Harris was struggling and missing all those threes earlier in the season, I knew that wasn't him. That wasn't him. More times than not, you're going to get a good Tobias Harris. Well, with Al Horford, right now, he's going through a similar thing. I've seen enough out of Al Horford to know he is a smarter basketball player than this. He is a better defender than this. He was minus 25 in 27 minutes, and when Joel Embiid left the floor, he wasn't capable of being the guy that we paid him to be in this one. He had that late foul on Jimmy Butler as well, where there was no reaction at all, which was crazy to me because it didn't really look like he got him at all, but the veteran that he is just went to his spot at the free throw line and waited and did not complain whatsoever. I don't know if he was just frustrated, fed up, and wanted to be that veteran old guy to not complain. I don't know, but it was very tic-tacky. Let's not lie about that. But Al Horford was not able to do it. So, listen, the team had some players really fail in this one. Tobias Harris and Al Horford specifically when it comes to the starting rotation. And Ben offensively. Ben defensively is insane. I mean, he did a great job of keeping Jimmy Butler, I'm not going to say out of the game because Jimmy Butler was a factor. He ended up getting to the free throw line for a lot of his shots. Jimmy Butler shot 7 of 21, and he didn't really score and get his first field goal until super late into the game. So, Ben Simmons defensively clearly affects the game, but offensively and his problems and his unwillingness to shoot affects the game in a negative way for the Sixers as well. So it's really hard to juggle what Ben Simmons provided in this one. But going back to my point, Tobias and Al Horford were the main issues for me in this one. But all around, when we look at how they played in Orlando and it was just bad, basketball. They weren't ready to compete. They didn't feel the need to. That wasn't the issue in this one. It was more of executing, and it was more of the I'm trying to put this in the right way. It was more of just not being able to execute when needed to, really, is essentially the easiest way to put it. They were involved in this game. It was a close battle. It could have went either way. They let one slip, really. The Miami Heat stole one. They let one slip. So, when it comes to being disappointed and frustrated, I get it. I get all that. But I still see a team that was engaged in that game. There's a reason why they were engaged in that game. Like, they should have won that game. I would feel worse if they were not in position to win that game. It was a road game against a good team, and they should have had it. Now, we need to fix those issues. And listen, when it comes to Brett Brown, this has been an issue throughout his tenure here. There are a lot of problems late down the stretch. There are a lot of problems with turning the ball over in key situations. But if Tobias Harris makes a dunk, or if Tobias Harris waits to get fouled, we're not talking about this. So that was a bad decision on Tobias Harris's part, that now it snowballs effect into everyone questioning Joel Embiid, to now everyone looking at Brett Brown differently in this game. Now everyone's questioning all these other different parts because Tobias Harris made a mistake that really costed the 76ers. And it hurts. It definitely hurts. But I guess I just don't feel differently about this team because I'm at the point now, and I've been at the point for a while, it's kind of similar to the Eagles. At some point, I switched gears. Okay? In August, Super Bowl champions. No doubt about it, we can make the Super Bowl. Then you realize, I don't really know if that's what's going to happen this year. I guess maybe the outrage is because there are some fans out there that automatically just believe they still are an NBA Finals team or nothing at all. And I don't know if they are an NBA Finals team or not, and I'm not too worried about it game by game. I'm just going through the flow. I'm just going to see what happens. They are a team that's in the mix with all the other playoff teams at the top of the Eastern Conference, and who knows what's going to happen. But to complain every single game that, well, they are not an NBA Finals team, or they're not this and they're not that, I'm just going to watch the games and see what happens. I mean, I know, this is what I know. They are a team that will be within the top 5 teams of the Eastern Conference, and they're going to have to play in the playoffs. From there, we will see what happens. I mean, I'm not going to lose my mind after every single one and go on this insane outrage. I will point out the problems in that game. I will discuss what happened, whether it was positives or negatives throughout each game, but I'm not going to lose my mind because at the end of the day, I know where they're going to fall. I'm giving you the window. I mean, they're going to fall within the top teams of the Eastern Conference, and from there, they're going to have to battle it out in the playoffs. They had this game, and they lost it. It's annoying, and it sucks. But they were in a position to win a game against a good team on the road, and they should have. I look at it that way. I mean, it's definitely not great. They blew it, but it comes down to Tobias Harris making a play there. And it wasn't a hard one. It wasn't. It's a different circumstance. This is making a dunk. Really, I mean, it's making a dunk. It's not a hard one. It's not executing a play to get a wide open look. No, this is a free pass to dunk a basketball. So this situation is different than others. And they were that close to doing it. I mean, Tobias Harris just has to be better in that moment. That's my biggest takeaway, that play. But then it snowballs, and then there's other people that I question. I do question Brett Brown in this one at times. I didn't like that he went to Tobias Harris out of a timeout 2 times. 2 times specifically stood out to me in that fourth quarter, and then the one was in the overtime period. Why? Why him in this game? Because he wants to show confidence in him because he's the highest, one of the highest paid guys? I get all that, and I get the other side. He gave him a clean look, but not tonight. And then you actually get a little lucky because Josh Richardson gets fouled late with barely any time left, and he gets to go to the free throw line to send it to overtime. Well, he misses the first one, then he has to miss the second one on purpose. It barely touches the rim, and Ben Simmons, see, this is the thing. There's so many negatives with Ben Simmons, and there's so many positives. He goes and works his ass off from a specific spot on the floor from a free throw position. He flies to the glass and puts it back to tie the game to send it to overtime. It was a remarkable play by Ben Simmons. But all around, it's hard to not look at the offensive side of the game. It was bad. Jimmy Butler missed free throws late. He was red hot from the charity stripe throughout the entire game, and then when things mattered, it changed. He missed free throws. It kept the Sixers alive. Now, I will say this when it comes to the crowd. I thought it was whack, and whack in a bad way. The Miami Heat, they have a good team this year, and I'll be honest with you, I expected them to fall at some point, but they are not falling. They are continuing to win games. They are putting stretches together. They're staying within the pack, and I give a lot of respect to them for doing it. What I didn't think was good was the environment. Let's be real. Jimmy Butler has gotten abused in Philadelphia both times so far this season. The heavy boos come out, right? So when the Sixers then go to Miami, the only way to handle it from a Miami Heat perspective is to sell out that crowd, be ridiculous, boo everyone on the Sixers, make it this environment that's so toxic for the Sixers fans. They have a good product. The Miami Heat have a good product. That place was quiet. I mean, there were moments where people stood up and cheered, but for the success that they have had so far this season, and for it to be the Sixers, that plays a role in this discussion. It's the Sixers. It's the team and the fan base that is going after your star that came to the team this offseason. So for it to be that mild in there throughout the game, that's embarrassing, but that's the difference in the East Coast cities compared to Miami, where there's other things to do and it's not as crazy of a sports town. That is the difference, but I mean, come on. I just expected more. I barely heard them. Barely heard them. All around, though, it was a crazy ending. It was absurd. I couldn't believe it. Talk about an emotional roller coaster. The Sixers need to find ways to win this game. They do. They have to find a way to win this game. It is a common theme, and you can put it on the immaturity of the players, but Al Horford's not immature. Like, he flat out needs to look at himself in the mirror and say, I got to be better. I need to provide what I was brought here to do, and that's be a backup center when Embiid's on the floor. That's be a 4 when Embiid is on the floor. That goes on him, but I expect someone like Al Horford, someone who's been around a long time and who has played a ton of NBA basketball, to snap out of it eventually, but it has to come soon, and he did lose some time this year due to an injury. Is he not 100% healthy? Is he banged up? Does that play a role into this conversation of what Al Horford is? And Tobias Harris, he's another guy. I mean, he shouldn't be immature at this point when it comes to a dunk at the end of the game. I'm going to lose sleep over that play. As I stated with the bench, Ennis was better. Trey Burke was fine. He was a spark plug. Fine isn't doing it enough justice. I thought Trey Burke was good with his minutes, without a doubt. You're seeing the effect of Matisse Thybulle not being involved, and I don't like when Furkan Korkmaz is out there because I don't think he provides enough defensively, and his offensive scoring doesn't outweigh his defensive woes. But who can I criticize right now? That's what they have. That's a personnel problem. Without Matisse Thybulle, without him being able to go, that's the only option. So I get why he's out there, and there are times where he makes threes, but there are times where he gets bullied defensively, or there are times where he turns the ball over, and I see see that he's gotten better from last year, right? Like, I'm not blind. He is shooting better. See, last year, my big knock on him is the guy isn't shooting from league average, and he's supposed to be a three-point specialist. That's a problem to me. Well, his three-point shooting has definitely gotten better, but I think he still tries to do too much. He puts the ball on the floor sometimes that I don't really like. But there's no other options right now. He has to play, he has to log minutes because of the injuries and because that's just what the team is right now. How come the Sixers can't ever have someone like Herro or Robinson where when they shoot the ball, you just know it's going in? And I guess I say how come they can never when they had J.J. Redick last year. So that doesn't really make sense. That was a little too ridiculous. But I guess in terms of this year is what I'm saying. How come they don't have a guy who they can just count on and they can just know that there's a good chance the three is going in? Joel Embiid has been knocking down a good amount of threes, and for all the people that scream he needs to be below the basket and only below the basket, here's another chance for you to realize that's not how it works in today's basketball. Without him knocking down those threes, we would not be involved in this game whatsoever. But we don't have a guy, Josh Richardson, like he's not that great of a shooter. He's just an average shooter, and Tobias is your best shooter, but he had an off night. Like, we don't have guys where you know it's going in. And I'm not saying Herro is this guy who knocks down every shot every single game, but he is a pure shooter. And this Robinson guy knocking down 4 fours, like it just not afraid to pull it, looks confident when pulling it. We don't have that. We don't have a shooter, a real shooter. A pure, just shooter. We don't have it. Only 11 turnovers. So the Sixers did a good job of actually keeping the ball in their possession. And they fell short in this one. That's how it all finished. So, you know, it's okay to be annoyed with this team, but I guess I feel a different way because at some point I changed my mentality of we're winning the NBA Finals, we're going all the way to, well, they're in the mix with everyone else. There's a chance they can do it. There's a chance that they won't do it. They need to fix some problems. Late game situations is something that has been a problem, but I will always counter it by saying Tobias Harris had a dunk. Not a three-point shot that he missed. Yes, later in the game, but I'm saying at the end of the fourth quarter, to secure the win, he had a dunk. It wasn't a 20-footer. It wasn't an 18-footer. It wasn't a 10-footer. It was a dunk. And he makes that. The game is pretty much over. He failed to do that. Then everything else occurred. He had to make that play. He had to make that play, and he didn't. So that's what I look at the most. And that's not unfair. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and I will see you next time.